Hello everyone and welcome back to another Team Player Gaming video. Are you tired of just making third attacks and always missing? Well, this video is for you. Today I'm going to talk about 10 actions that are better than making a third attack. To do that, I've got a special guest with me today. So how about you introduce yourself for those viewers that don't know you?
Hey, so I'm Mike. I have a YouTube channel called Galorian In Depth. I like to dive into the Galorian setting and lore in my videos. But I do have a few mechanic videos out there. Um, I've been GMing, Pathfinder for years in first edition, and then I started with second edition with the playtest. And hey, I've been enjoying it, so it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let's just get right into the video. So, first, I want to talk about the aid action. So, how about you give a good idea of what that entails?
Yeah, so the aid action is actually really good. Generally, it takes one action on your turn to prepare it, and then you get a reaction. Um, so a lot of classes don't provide a reaction just off the bat. So this is one way that you can get a reaction. I'm sorry, I have a cat here that's trying to get our attention too. Um, but yeah, you can use usually your skills to aid somebody else in their skills, giving a +1 or +2 bonus to it. Um, you work with your GM to figure out how that's going to happen. Just recently, I was a player, and she was having a hard time climbing herself out of a pit. So one of the other players aided her with athletics to help pull her out of the pit. Um, so yeah, that was just an easy example. You can use aid in a multitude of ways. Helping people get out of if they're grappled, or help them make a successful hit on somebody. So it's really useful and very flexible. Kind of depends on you as a player, your creativity, and selling it to the GM to say, hey, this is what I want to try to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you might also make a skill check to aid an attack roll. For example, you might use athletics to kind of shove the opponent into the an ally's attack roll, or you might use Arcana to kind of shine your light in the enemy's face to distract them.
Yeah, it's really about being creative and using your skills that you have and or your character is very skilled at, and shaping the battlefield to your advantage.
Which is one of the things that's aid is definitely something that I think a lot more people should do, especially from a teamwork standpoint, which is kind of what my channel is about. Because you're
Yeah,
getting.
and not to mention, some ancestries, humans especially, are really good at aid. They have ancestral feats that help them with that. So if you want to be that team player and use aid as much as possible, human might be the way to do it.
Yes, and I recently covered the Knoll ancestry, and they've got a fantastic feat for aid. Pack Hunter gives you a +2 to aid people, and them a +2 to aid you. It's fantastic. It's one of the reasons why I love Knowles so much.
Knolls are great for those pack tactics and working together as a team.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now let's move on to recall knowledge. Another excellent and way underused action that people can use. It's fantastic. One of the things that teamwork wise you can do for your party is just knowing what your enemy's weaknesses and resistances are. Because talking is a free action. So you can just let your party know exactly what they need to do to beat the monster.
Yeah, so slight spoiler here for Age of Ashes. I've been running Age of Ashes with my group, and they're loving it. But it is challenging. Um, but last session, just yesterday actually, they were fighting with a golem, and he could not do any damage to this. A lot of their spells and everything had fire, and the golem actually healed because of fire. And they were like, "How can we turn the tide of this battle? We can't do any damage to this thing." Eventually, they had a successful recall knowledge and found out that it had a weakness to acid. As soon as they found that out, everything just turned around, and they destroyed that golem with no question. So many of the creatures in Pathfinder 2 are designed with weaknesses and resistances and immunities. To know that stuff is valuable, and even those that don't, recall knowledge can still tell you, of a weak reflex save, or or dexterity based. That kind of information can really help you shape your tactics and what spells or what actions you want to use against them.
Mhm. Another slight spoiler for Age of Ashes. My party was going up against. I assume you're talking about the brass golem. Is that the one you're talking
Uh,
about?
no, actually,
Okay.
this is a golem much later, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
golems in
Well,
Age.
my party. I'm running through it myself now, and they did a recall knowledge on an earlier golem and found out it was weak to cold. So of course our alchemist just kept hitting it with frost vials,
Yeah,
which
and
it
you
went
mentioned
down so
alchemist. Now,
quickly.
alchemist.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned alchemist, and alchemists are intelligent based. Um, this is great for alchemists because they have the quick alchemy feat, so they can like make the proper alchemical bomb right there on the spot that they need to.
Mm-hmm.
Once they have a successful recall knowledge and they know what to attack it with, a lot
Yep.
of these bombs also have persistent damage. So alchemists are great against creatures that have some kind of weakness.
They're fantastic in general, to be honest with you. In fact, they're like on the top of my list for teamwork just because they have so much potential for just everything.
It's a very versatile class, yes.
Yes, it is definitely a very versatile class. Now let's move on to the demoralize action. This is one of the best actions in the game, simply because frightened is one of the best debuffs in the game. I think the only one that's better is sickened, and that's just because they have to spend an action to get rid of it, whereas frightened goes down every turn.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You know, don't discount how much a +1 or +2 is to things, or in this case, a -1, -2. Um, Demoralize is one action, and you can debuff an enemy, and that is so powerful. That can turn not just a hit to a miss, but a critical hit to just a regular hit. Um, yeah,
And
yeah, it is fantastic.
yes, and spellcasters have a lot of spells that do the frightened condition, but this is how melee types get the frightened condition.
Yeah, yeah, anyone can do it. I'm a strong believer. Put some skills into intimidation. Um, you never know when you could use it. It's great.
Oh, it's fantastic. All right, the next one I want to talk about is feint.
Yeah, so feint is another charisma based type action that you can use. Great for rogues, especially if you have a high charisma rogue, because you use your deception against your enemy's perception to try to throw them off balance a little bit, get them flat-footed. And flat-footed is great. That gives a -2 to their armor class. And if you are a rogue, you get that sweet sneak attack damage in there too. And that's just one action to debuff their armor class by 2. It's fantastic. One thing that I've wanted to try, I haven't had a chance to yet. I want to do a monk with the staggering stance and do a archetype feat into rogue for that sneak attack damage. I think that'd be a great combo. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but that looks great.
And it's not just good for rogues either. It's good for any class, really. I mean, flat-footed is one of the most common debuffs in the game, and it's good for everybody. Granted, it's only good for the character feigning, so it's not that great of a teamwork debuff. At least feint isn't. I mean, there are plenty of actions out there that make the opponent flat-footed to everyone. Those are the best ones, but it's still definitely a good action for just anyone. But it's also especially good for certain swashbucklers too.
That's a good point. Yeah, especially the wit swashbuckler, who's high on charisma anyway. Yeah, be great for them.
Let's talk about the point out action. Not many people know about this one, but it's a fantastic one for teamwork. Let's say your GM is throwing a bunch of sneaky enemies at you, and one of your party members sees it, but the rest of the party doesn't. Well, that's where the point out action comes in. You can spend an action to be like, hey, there's a guy over there. It's fantastic. Your GM's face will be priceless if you use this action on him when he's trying to sneak up on you.
It also helps when at higher levels and you have enemies that have invisibility. Because they can still be detected. If you roll a high enough perception check, you can kind of figure out what square they're in, even though they're still hidden. You can still point them out to your party members and say, hey, there's an invisible creature right there. I see his footprints in the water or whatever. And it's still hidden, so there's still a 50-50 chance that they'll miss an attack. But those are really good odds, and you can position yourself.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of concealed. Concealed is the DC 5. I'm pretty sure in this system, don't they just get a plus to AC if they're hidden?
It is you have to roll a DC 10 flat check to hit a hidden creature.
Okay. So it is 50-50. Okay.
Yeah, it's 50-50 to hit it, but
I don't
if you know where it is.
I don't run into hidden condition too often, so
And it doesn't matter if you have area of effect. If you have an area of effect spell, you can hit them. Know. So
it's great for to point something out to that wizard and be like, hey, he's over there, and then fireball.
Yep. Fireball.
All right, now I want to talk about the take cover action. It's one of those things where it's like, you got something to hide behind? That's a +4 to AC if you get greater cover. It's fantastic. It keeps you alive so you can help your party. Don't have a shield, but you got something to hide behind. There you go.
And I feel like it adds some realism to it too. If you're in a real combat at range, you're not going to just stand out in the open field. you're gonna find something to hide behind, some cover. Um, so yeah, absolutely. I think this is great for archers or any kind of ranged attack. You can, with your bow, you can fire and then take cover. Uh, and the enemies aren't going to have a good chance of hitting you. You just keep sniping them behind a wall or something. I think it's great. DMs can use this too, though. So look out for that. Look out for those archers that are hiding behind the council wall, raining down arrows on you.
And another thing is that there's a lot of heritages and feats that say, oh, if you're in a certain terrain, you don't actually need cover to take cover. Like woodland elf, for example. You're a woodland elf. You're in a forest. You can take cover even if there isn't actually anything to take cover behind.
Yeah, yeah, and this is also a good point for GMs if you homebrew or if you design your own encounters. Leave some of those things out there for your players. Leave some fallen trees or some like broken walls or something. Just leave them there and see if your players pick up on it and use
And
that
take
to their advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, just see if they use it.
hmm Like I use take cover all the time with my ranged mastermind rogue. You know, one of the things I'll do is I'll do that recall knowledge to get that sneak attack, and then I'll take a shot, and then I'll take cover.
Right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I had he was a ranger goblin. One of my players. That was his favorite thing. He would take cover, hide, and shoot people from a distance. That was his favorite thing.
Yeah,
I loved it. Yeah.
it's my favorite thing with my mastermind rogue too. We're almost done. Now let's talk about tripping and grappling.
Yeah, so tripping first. I have a player that loves to trip his enemies. That's his favorite thing in the world. Um, yeah, we talked about the flat-footed condition earlier, and that's a great way to add that flat-footed condition, as well as most of the time your enemy is going to spend an action getting up on the next round. So you've made them flat-footed and potentially made them waste an action on their next turn. This gets even better if you have a fighter or somebody with attack of opportunity standing right next to them. So he gets tripped. He's flat-footed. He tries to get up on his next turn. He gets smacked down by the fighter. I mean, this is such a great thing to do. And grapple. Likewise, if you have a very strong person, and you want to just grapple them, they have to get out of that attack, out of that grapple. And especially if they're immobilized, if you critically succeed, all they can do is try to escape. They can't even hit you back. So yeah, that's great for like your fighters or your barbarians. Any kind of strength based, grappling type, even a strength based monk. Great action economy.
And one of the other things is tripping actually makes them flat-footed to everyone, which means everyone that goes before him trying to get up is gonna get that extra chance to hit, which is phenomenal. And the other thing is, if you trip and grapple them, then they're wasting two actions essentially.
That's true. That's true. You make a good point about if you trip them, until it's their turn, they're going to be flat-footed. It may be to a tactical advantage to delay your turn, depending on how the initiative order is. If you want to delay and go after the enemy, so that whole entire round he is on his back, flat-footed. That is an option. You have to look at the how your team works together and how many enemies are on the field and everything. But that is an option.
Now the other thing is the assurance feats.
Right, yeah. I know a lot of people struggle with what to do with that third action, right? If you take the assurance feat in athletics, then you don't have to worry about the multiple attack penalty. Because normally a trip or a grapple is an attack, right? Well, I mean, it is an attack, has the attack trait. With the assurance, you don't have to worry about the penalties, which include multiple attack penalty. So whatever your assurance is for trip and grapple, that still applies even on your third action. So instead of, hitting again with a -10, you can just use assurance on your athletics to trip or grapple them for the rest of your team to bash down on them, right?
Yep. And the flat-footed thing also applies to grappling, because they are flat-footed to everyone from grappling too. So I wanted to say that because I didn't want people to get confused because I just said trip earlier, but the same thing applies to grappling as well.
And that is flat, like you said, flat-footed to everyone. So even your archer or whatever that is 30, 40 feet away, enemy is still flat-footed to them. So they can take a shot.
It's honestly one of my favorite things to do with like you said, it's really good for a fighter. It's one of my favorite things to do with my Knoll fighter I'm playing right now. It's just trip them.
Right.
All right, we're almost done with the video, but I want to talk about a more basic and probably one that you guys have thought of, which is moving. Just moving. Get in a better position. Melee fights, get into flanking. More ranged characters, get away from enemies. Just in general. It's pretty obvious, but it is one that's better than making a third attack.
Yeah, this takes some knowledge and of the battlefield, because each situation is going to be different. If you're fighting a barbarian enemy, you don't want to be right next to him. You want to make that distance. You want to, or an enemy that like a dire wolf or something that doesn't have a ranged attack. Move away from them. However, if it's like a wizard, who probably has a low armor class anyway, right up in his face, get right next to him, because he does not want you there. He's gonna want to try to get away from you. So you got to read the battlefield, different tactics for different enemies. But yeah, don't be afraid to move. So few bad guys have attack of opportunity in this system. It comes up every now and then, but chances are that your enemy does not have attack of opportunity, and you can probably move pretty easily.
And the other thing is, a ranger really wants to move, especially if they're going off of like snares. I mean, just move to a certain place and force the enemy to go into your snare.
Right. Now, I wouldn't say all rangers, because some rangers are like the two-weapon fighting, and
not all rangers. No, some of them do want to be in melee, but if you're a more snare-based ranger or just a ranged ranger, absolutely, just move around.
know your enemies and try to figure out. I mean, yeah, know yourself and try to figure out your enemies as much as possible, and play to those strengths and weaknesses.
Which is another thing about recall knowledge. Know your enemy's weaknesses. The last action for this video is raising a shield. This is one of those that everybody should use, even if they're not like a champion or something. And I'm not just talking about raising a shield. I'm talking about like casting the shield cantrip or using feats like twin parry and dueling parry.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We came over from first edition into second edition, and my wife was very hesitant, did not like the idea that it took an entire action to raise a shield. She didn't like that at all at first. But then she started coming around to it, and it's like, yeah, this is actually useful, um, because raising a shield anybody can do, and increases their armor class. And again, that +1 +2 armor class, that means so much in the system. Um, and when you have 3 actions, sometimes it's hard to know what to do with all 3 actions. Um, I highly encourage, if you have the ability to do the shield cantrip, take it. It is 1 action, so you can cast your offensive spell, then raise the or cast the shield cantrip, which also gives you shield block, right? So you can avoid so much damage just from that one little cantrip that costs you 1 action to do.
And the other thing is, raising a shield also lets you use feats like Shield Warden to protect your allies as well.
You hear it there from a team player GM, huh? You got to protect your allies.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what my channel's about. But yes, if you're a champion or a fighter or something that uses the shield, absolutely take Shield Warden. It is one of the best teamwork feats in the game. Just giving your ally a +2 to AC is phenomenal for a champion and even a shield based fighter.
The shield, raising a shield is a great action economy. Don't belittle it. Don't think less of it. It really is fantastic. Like I said, a lot of times you don't know what to do with that third action. You don't want to hit 3 times with the -10 or -8 of this agile, and so you're kind of stuck there saying, okay, what do I do about third action? Yeah, so all of these options that we're talking about today are great.
Oh yes, absolutely. There are plenty of teamwork aspects to all of these, and they can help you out as well. It's phenomenal. And I think I'm gonna wrap up the video there. Why don't you take us out? Go ahead and plug your
All
channel.
right. Well, yeah. Thanks for joining us today in this little discussion. Look for more team player videos out there. Come find me at Galorian in Depth. I guess we'll put the link in the description below. Um, again, I do more looking at the setting and the characters that you would find in Galorian, because I really love that setting. So yeah, come check out my channel.
Yeah, if you like my teamwork lore videos, absolutely check them out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right, so that's going to do it. And until next time, teamwork is vital.